What's going on, you guys? Welcome to the Athlete Mental Game Coaching Podcast for a special edition. As you see, I'm joined by Sheriff Christopher Swanson, Genesee County Sheriff, and he's been there for how many years now?
Started my 31 year this June.
31 years. Wow. Congratulations.
I know.
That's pretty big.
Fourth year as sheriff.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Fourth year as sheriff. But the reason I have Chris Swanson here instead of Desi Maynor is we're doing a special edition on interviewing high-level athletes, professionals, and trying to dive into what's going on in their mental game and just how to be successful like they are and see if we can replicate it. So a little bit of background on Chris. We've known each other for a long time, since I was probably 10 or 11. But your list of achievements is actually really impressive.
Thank you.
And so let's go through that. So first of all, you're obviously the sheriff of Genesee County. Really cool, really impressive. Some of the things you've done over the last couple of years have been really phenomenal. Also, 4-time Ironman finisher, and you're training for your 5th, correct?
Right.
You are correct. Okay. 5 now?
That's right, man. I can't get a tattoo. I can't get a tattoo with 4. I get the tattoo with 4 and then a line across it. Make it 5.
There we go. Also, the owner, founder of Swanson Leadership, author of 2 books. One is an audiobook, or it
3
can be an audiobook. 10-Man Ironman and then Blood, Guts, and Things That Drive You Nuts. Both of them are phenomenal. Great stories in.
Right.
You're a great storyteller.
Thank you, brother.
Online, you sell fitness and motivational e-courses. You're a part of the Black and Blue podcasts since 2020, right? Mm-hmm. That started because of We'll Walk With
Correct.
You, kind of the famous words.
Yeah, man.
Also husband to Jamie Swanson and fathers to Jordan and Riley. Super cool. Been best friends with them for a long time. Right. So thank you for coming on in the podcast. I'm super excited to have you on here and hopefully get some good insight. So welcome. First things first.
For sure.
We like to just dive into our topics. We don't like to mess around. So first things first, how did you get to where you are today? And what is like your story of how you're sitting in that chair under the office of Genesee County Sheriff?
Man, that's awesome. Well, Genesee County, for the listeners, is in Flint, Michigan. And, Flint's it's a tough town, man. And it's gritty. I always call it the little brother of Detroit. And my dad was Detroit cop and my grandpa was Detroit cop. And I kind of grew up in the business with knowing what I wanted to do, but yet not having a plan. I'm the youngest of 4. And when I graduated high school, man, I was a terrible student, not because I was a bad kid. I just was not an academic. And I remember a dude told me, he was one of my counselors, 11th grade. I had a 1.9 grade point average. And he said, hey, he says, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? I said, well, I'm going to be a police officer. He goes, not with a 1.9. And I kind of flipped the switch. And, lesson number 1, if you want to do something and you're not preparing yourself, somebody may come into your life and jerk your chain. Listen to those people, because that's what he did. His name is Mr. Williams, and he planted a seed. And then when I ended up graduating, I brought that 1.9 up to a 3.1. Wow. I went from there into applied for University of Michigan to go to college, and I got denied. My grade point was still low, and my entrance exams were terrible. I took the entrance exam twice, and I bombed it the second time. So I went to a community college. And at 18 years old, I started, and I met a little black girl who was a professor, and she was amazing. She's my dear friend now, Dr. Avon Burns. And man, she was just one that did not let me slide. That was that fall semester. And that next semester, I got into the internship right here at the sheriff's office when I saw my first violent homicide. And a guy got shot in the head, and his brains were on the wall, and he was still alive. And you just can't be taught this stuff. Me. So after that scene, I said, man, if I'm gonna be a police officer, I need to probably figure this out, right? So I ended up taking a simple EMT class, and I was, again, a young student, and then I went all the way into being a paramedic, and I'm still a licensed medic. So I graduated medic school at 20 years old, and that allowed me to get into the sheriff's office. All the time while I was doing that, I continued with my school, finished with my associates, ended up going back to Michigan and got accepted. So then I got accepted at the same time, got my medic license, got hired at the sheriff's office in June 2nd, 1993. And then shortly thereafter that, I transitioned into my bachelor's program. I went to the police academy in January of 94. And man, my career has exploded since then, because when I got out of the academy, Cole, I went right into a drug team. And it was kind of a really unorthodox way to do it. But I went from 21 years old, never experienced anything, that in June of 1994, buying my first 8-ball of cocaine. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, this is moving fast. They don't
just
teach
got
this,
thrown
man.
into
Like,
the
is this
thick of
even
it.
legal, right? We're busting doors, we're banging doors. Oh my gosh. And it was up in Beecher. And man, it was so rampant. Like, dope people would pull up the traffic stop lights, and the dope dealers would come up and knock on your door and knock on your window and say, hey, do you want to buy cocaine? You want to buy heroin? You want to buy this? And so we were doing a lot of buy busts, and we were just rolling, right?
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, what really opened the door to get me in the sheriff's office was all those things that were planted in my life, from Dr. Burns to my internship, to seeing a guy get his head blown off, to going to the EMT school. I'll be a paramedic. It was very competitive to get in here. And when I was on the dope team for almost 2 years and banging all these doors, it brought me to the point where I was noticed for my hard work. When I got done with my bachelor's, I just got married in July of 1994. I had another guy plant a seed, Dr. Ellis Perlman, and he's like, hey, you need to go get a master's degree. And I just believed in him, and I ended up getting a master's degree, graduated in 98. But what the cool thing about that is, at my last semester, before I even finished my thesis, I got another contact, and they're like, listen, we have an opening and you were recommended to teach one of these courses. And I said, well, I don't even graduate till May. They said, we're going to make an exception. So I was able to teach at U of M in the winter of 1994, excuse me, 1998. It was a trauma class called emergency medicine. It's a 4-credit class for the education curriculum. And because I was a medic, I was able to do that. And I have been on faculty for 26 years since then, teaching all the way up to 300 level courses.
Wow.
I say all that because while we're coming through the ranks, deputy, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, undersheriff, and then sheriff, the rule that I always follow is there's nothing more important than building good, solid, authentic relationships and working your guts out. Absolutely. And that's what's allowed me to be this person that I am now. I got, appointed sheriff in 2019. I've seen so much death and violence. I've been all over the world. Like you said, I've written books, and I've met the last 4 sitting presidents, and, I get to do everything a cop can do. I just solved a 25-year-old cold case 4 weeks ago. The guy told me how he choked an 87-year-old lady out with a shoelace and then raped her. And I mean, my life is a dream, bro.
Sounds like it. So how did you develop that mindset of just go? Because obviously you weren't born with it, right? I don't think anyone's really born with that mindset. So did you have people like in your life, or was it something that you just kind of forced over and over again until it just kind of was natural to you?
Yeah. So my story may be different than yours because you've been an athlete your whole life. I was not.
Right.
I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And I love my family, but as I said, I'm the youngest of 4. My parents, none of my people are competitive. None of them, as far as athletics. Right. I got cut in 9th grade baseball, and I didn't compete for 14 years. I didn't go to a single athletic event. I just went, I worked, and I hustled, and I've always paid for things and worked my guts out. I never got, nobody paid for my college. I got no gifts from my parents, no nothing. And I love my family. That just wasn't what they could do. And when I got into police work and I started this journey, a lot of my journey is little people. I call them seed planters. They drop little seeds in. But I really had a turning point in a New Year's Eve, man. I just felt like crap. I'd already been a police officer for several years. It was in 2000. And I looked at myself, and I tell the story in the book about, I thought it was an intruder, and I let myself get out of the groove of being a competitor and certainly take care of yourself physically. And literally, Cole, I made a decision like that. I think that is what people have deep. Everybody has the ability to make a decision. Sure. And that was my decision, and it had to be competitive. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get this, man. I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. I loved bodybuilding my whole life. I'm thinking, you know what? If I'm going to do something, do it crazy. So I'm going to be a bodybuilder. And that was in January, man. And I said, I'm going to do a competition in November. And so we're only talking 11 months. And when you're standing on the stage in a bikini, you better look the part. And man, I just turned everything around. I did 4 bodybuilding shows the next several years. I started doing marathons. But what completely changed my life, besides salvation, that is when I decided in 2005, because of Dr. Al Jansen, who just came back from the 05 Ironman, when he said, you need to do an Ironman. And he painted the picture, he planted another seed. And in November of 07, man, I hit the Gulf of Mexico, and I've never been the same.
That is unbelievable. And Ironman is still on the table for me. Just obviously not right now with my broken
leg. You can do
leg.
it, man.
But
yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. So that was just, you had someone in your life that came, was like, you know what, you need to do an Ironman. You're not cool
That's
until
right.
you do an Ironman. You were like, all right, I gotta do it. And now you've done it 4 times, which is unbelievable. And obviously, like, those are not easy feats, right? You even afterwards, you're like dead for a day, right? How do you feel? Like, that is not just a physical battle, right? That's a huge mental battle, more so than the physical battle, I think. And like, what are the hardest challenges that you had to face, like when you're training and then when the competition actually comes up? Because you can't just be like, you know what, I'm going to do an Ironman today, right? Could not physically or mentally do that, right? That takes months to years of work. So how did you build that? What were some of the biggest challenges? Did you ever, there were weeks or days where you're like, yeah, I don't want to do this? Like what was the mindset going through all that?
Well, I had never said I didn't want to do it. So you control your thoughts. You know, there's a great book out there that says, as a man thinketh. And I always think complete, just think finish. And after my first Ironman, to jump ahead, I coined the phrase in my own life: whatever I do, I finish or die trying. Yeah. Like there's no burn the ships. There's no coming back. But to your question, you're exactly right. Ironman is 2.4 mile swim. Then you jump on a race bike and you cycle for 112 miles. Then you get off the bike and you run a full marathon, 26.2 miles. So it's 140.6 miles total. Starts at 7 in the morning and you have till midnight to finish. And 1/2 of 1% of the entire world's population has ever done an Ironman. And I was able to finish in 14 hours, 11 minutes in 07. And I literally think my DNA changed when I crossed the finish line. Yeah. Like that guy before is not the guy who you see right now, because something flipped. And even though I ended up in the emergency room on 3 out of the 4 Ironmans, I've crashed on my bike 2 out of the 4 Ironmans. It's the entire process that builds the person that you are. Like your wounded wing right now, that's going to make you better in some ways than had it never happened. Right. And wherever that break is, it's going to be stronger at that break than it was before. And so sometimes you got to be broken and then healed to be stronger. And I think my absence of competition and athletics for all those years was my break, because I missed out on so much, you know. And I had the raw material, but it just needed to be manifested. And so when you train for something like Ironman, you are right. You don't do an Ironman in training to perform an Ironman. You do all these disciplines and you train 6 days a week. You have to have 1 day of rest, and you're doing long distances. You're running in snow and sleet, and you're cycling when it's hot. You're getting run off and taken in water, and you got to train when you don't feel good, because that's another job. But I would tell you, when I was on that beach in 07, and I could see the buoys out there, and the cannon went off at 0700, and 3,000 people jumped in the water. It's the only sport where amateurs and pros compete together. Yeah. It's the only sport. Right. And when you look at people that of all walks of life, all ages, all body types, it really comes down to this. And this is a great life lesson. It's a competition between you and you. Because I have been passed by soccer moms, and I've passed 70-year-olds. You know, I have been passed by people that are 50 pounds heavier than me, and I've passed people that are 20 pounds lighter than me. It's not about me competing with other people. It's inside your head. It's literally from ear to ear, the 4 inches between that you get to make that decision. And that's the reason I keep doing them, because when you train, you have to be mentally strong.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you said it already. The mental strength of doing it, it far exceeds, because your body wants you to quit. I always say it's your body says no, but your mind says go.
Mm.
And I have to push through those barriers. And literally, if I'm not dead, I have more in the tank. And that's what Ironman or any experience that is crushing will teach you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just every time we've been telling these stories for so many years, and it's just every time it's so cool just to hear like the journey. And that's what we do here at Athlete Mental Game Coaching.
Yeah.
We emphasize the journey, right? Finishing the Ironman, yeah, that's great, but everything you learned and everything you went through every single day and minute is like that's the battle, and that's like the reward to me, right? Finishing is just like, okay, that's a result of everything that we've done, right? That's kind of expected, right? Because of everything that we've, worked through. So that's really cool. And I love that, you have that same mindset. And another thing going on with mindset, right? Huge, obviously 4-time Ironman finisher, going for your 5th soon, hopefully. Do you have it scheduled?
Yeah, September 16th, 2023, Cambridge, Maryland.
There we go. All right. I'll put it on the calendar and text you all the time and make sure that you're staying on top of it. But
right on, brother.
You've got to run for sheriff, right? Obviously that's a huge kind of battle that you and your family's facing, right? Because not only are you getting, peppered, your family is getting peppered as well. So what is your mindset like trying to protect yourself, trying to protect your family from everyone that's just trying to spit lies, coming after you? Like, obviously running for sheriff, running for a public office of anything it's not easy. And that firsthand. So how is your mind through all of that? How's your mindset? How do you handle things? How do you cope with things? That sort of thing.
So here's the first thing. So fun fact, this is my office, and I want you to see this note that I put right there in 2015. You probably can't see it, but it says, "God's got it, Chris. Get out of the way." Number one.
Love it.
I can tell you, my experience as a believer, man, I got a mission, and nothing's going to stop me. And so you have this confidence. And when you are righteous and when you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. And it goes into that competitiveness, I mean, I remember seeing you in your games through high school and in college. And I remember Riley saying, especially in college, don't forget the rules. Don't look at Cole. Don't make eye contact to him. Don't try to talk to him, because he's not even, he's in another zone. So you get that level, and your listeners probably get that level, right? Most people don't operate there.
Right.
Most people are at the 10,000 foot level. I'm at the 30,000 foot level. So the things that get me all amped up, most people would crumble on. The things that most people get amped up on, I don't even think about. They say in Arabic is belly. I mean, it just means it's garbage. It means nothing to me.
Okay.
And I look at it as I have a mission to impact, and I have been able to, as sheriff, literally touch the lives of over 3.8 billion people. And when you reach 2.5 million per month on social media, and you're helping people put their lives back together, and you do it as a police leader, in the 5th biggest county in the state, and I'm leading 274 people into battle every day. And then on top of that, running for office, your actions will prove who you are. And so I don't try to chase people down. I don't try to put out every fire. Man, if I'm good in my heart and I'm good in my head, ain't nobody going to stop me. And I'm going to do the right thing no matter what. And if at the end of the day, people like what I do, 51% of the people are going to vote for me, and I'm in. It just so happened more people voted for me, and it validates what I'm doing. But I don't do things to get something.
For sure.
I do the right thing, and the something happens.
For sure. That is one thing that I've started to learn the last couple months by doing this, is the most successful people and the ones that are always pushing farther are the first to help the person next to them and just fully assist.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to give. Now, most people are like, well, if you do that only for something to return, like, that's bad. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But that's not why, right?
Yeah.
When you give and you give and you give, stuff just starts to come back to you, because one, giving is it feels amazing for myself. Like, when I can give to someone else and you can see their face light up, or just any type of service, and you're like, oh my gosh, like that is amazing. And then it keeps me going to do another thing and another thing. So all of this, you kind of hit it on a little bit, right? Ironman, sheriff, leadership company, speaking all the time, books, family, leisure time. How do you balance it all? Like, what is, because most people would be like, there's not enough time in the day, but there's a lot. So how do you balance it all?
I know, dude.
And still just kind of enjoy it?
So there's a difference between being productive and being busy. And a lot of folks are busy. They don't get the outcome they want. Being productive is you're intentional, you're scheduled, you're focused, and nothing else matters. When I'm talking to you for the 40 minutes that we're here, nothing else matters. Right. It was carved in my schedule. We're doing what we're doing. We're getting it done. And literally, when I hit leave, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm on to the next thing. And so when you schedule, it's much like an Ironman. When I'm swimming, I'm not even thinking about the bike. I'm certainly not thinking about the run. In fact, when I'm swimming, I'm not even thinking about the finish, Cole. I'm thinking about the next buoy. And if I get to the next buoy, then I'll worry about the next buoy. So I'm not worried about 4 buoys down the road. I'm going to just keep going. Everything in life, your marriage, your podcast, your coaching, your life, your finances, your health, everything is a competition. And if you don't treat it as such, someone's going to take it from you.
So for an athlete that struggles to focus on that present moment, what would be your biggest piece of advice to give them, like, just to focus on that next buoy, that next stroke of the arm, that next 100 yards when you're biking, right? That next step when you're running? Like, what is your biggest advice for an athlete to just focus on that next step instead of focus on that result and that end time?
Yeah. Everything is a checkpoint race. And when the checkpoint race happens, that means just get to the next level. If you want to be a millionaire, save the first dollar. And when you save the first dollar and then the second dollar, eventually you do that a million times over, you're going to get there. If you're overweight, lose the first pound. If you need to lose 40 pounds, you lose the first pound 40 times over, you're there. Whether it's marriage, I've been married to Jamie going on 29 years this year. I mean, I didn't know what it was like to be a husband at year 20, but I knew that I had 19 years in the bag. So let's repeat what works. Run first down plays if they work. And so when I look at life, of course we have big goals, and I have dates on mine. I'm very, very intentional when it comes to deadlines. I put dates on my agendas, because if there's no date, there's no accountability. Right. But when you look at things at little bites and everything's a competition, it doesn't look so overwhelming. Dude, at one point in my life, I was $480,000 in debt. I had a $35,000 credit card bill. I owed on a house. I had a couple Harleys. I had property. It was stupid, right? If I wanted to get out of debt, I couldn't do it overnight. It took me 27 months, and I've been debt free ever since. Nice. But I had to stop spending and start saving $1 at a time. And that's what life is. And so when people get frustrated, I say, well, what are your expectations? Because you're only going to rise to the level of the expectation you set for yourself. If you think you're going to be a smudge, then that's all you're going to be. If you think you're going to be something then that's what you're going to be. Like, you have to push the ceiling. And what keeps me going, Cole, I hate, I don't want to say hate because that's a strong word. I've never liked when people use age to validate what they're doing, but I think there's some value in that. Okay. Yeah. I'll be 51 years old on Ironman number 5. I go to the gym and I crush it. When I'm involved in the competition, when I'm in business, when I go speaking, I'm speaking twice tonight, one in Lansing and one in Detroit tonight. When I hit the stage, I want them to know that the temperature just changed, because it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how much wealth you have, how much not. You've got to take that and look at it as everything is a competition. And this one thing, it may have nothing to do with what you're doing competitively, but you treat it as a competition, because a victory there is going to help for a victory here. It all works together.
For sure. Absolutely. That is one of the biggest things that we try to coach our athletes on, is just taking it one little step at a time. Because if you start thinking about everything else that's going on, you're going to start stressing yourself out, and then you won't be able to achieve that next step. And you're going to get into this sinking sand type of thing. The more you panic, the more you just sink. So last question I want to ask you, and this is going to be kind of a question we ask all of our guests that come on. Why do you think an athlete's mindset is so important? Why is it an athlete, a business person, an individual? Why do you think mindset is so important to how they operate? And why do you think they should train it over and over and over again?
All right. That's a great question. So those that are listening and watching right now, you never know when your moment is going to come. And that moment many times could impact the lives of people around you. It could take you on a journey that's going to change your family tree. It could take you on a journey that's going to destroy everything that you've done. It could take you on a journey that opens up an opportunity that you never thought would ever happen. And when you look at preparation and you look at opportunity, when they intersect, that's success right in the middle. But if you stop preparing, an opportunity comes, you're going to miss it. And so when you look at things in life, whatever it is you're doing, no matter how small you think it is, it's all part of the process when the moment comes. And I've said, certainly in law enforcement, with as much violence that I've dealt with, is you always train in peace to perform in chaos. When chaos strikes, that's not the time to think, eesh, I should have done this or I could have done that. When something's happened in your life and you are on a simple fight or flight nervous response, that's a sympathetic response. It's all by habit. It's all by what you've been taught for those years and years of the past. It's going to be boom, second nature. You don't even think about it. What have you done to prepare for that moment? And I will tell you, man, all the Ironmans, all the cool stuff that I did, when my moment came on May 30th, 2020, and this city was about to explode. And you had thousands of people that were angry, and we were outnumbered 50-1. And at that moment, it made the most sense to take off a helmet, show that I'm not intimidated, that I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to break the line, break the code of law enforcement, and go into the crowd and just talk to people. Little did I know, everything that I just told you was all for this one moment. And when the crowd started surrounding me, and one of the shot callers came up and was very angry. I understand why, because somebody who looks like me in my uniform murdered somebody 5 days before in broad daylight. I was angry as well, but he had different anger. When all this was popping, and I asked them, what do you need me to do? And they started chanting. And this isn't a chant like you would see or hear at a championship game. You've been in those chants. This is a chant that comes from the guts. This is a chant that has hurt and pain with it. And when they were chanting, walk with us, Cole, I literally had less than 3 seconds to make a decision. And I look at those videos and I remember that story, and all those things, all those failures and successes in my life came down to that one moment. And when I responded with a let's walk, and I said it twice, and a third time, I got louder. I turned and I started walking. And the one part that's not caught on camera that will always be embedded in my mind was a conversation I had about 150 yards from that moment. As I started walking, the crowd went from hate and anger to hope. I had one of my guys named Ryan Dobbs. He did 6 years in the Marines. This guy, as he was walking to my left, I wanted to make sure that the police department wasn't on fire. And so I turned to him, I said, is the police department safe? And he says, it's good. And I said, this next line, which answers your question, I said, where are the people? And he looked at you. Leaders that are successful are all athletes, but the game may not be played on a field or a court, but leaders are all athletes. So train your mind, the body will follow. For when your moment comes, you will reign a champion and people will follow.
Love it. Love it. That's just the perfect way to end. What a great statement. I really appreciate it. Again, Chris, thank you so much for, taking time out of your day to come on and give these young athletes some serious knowledge, serious advice, and just to see like where success can take you, and just how the discipline just to be able to do all that is just, it boggles my mind every time I see you pop up on my social media. So super exciting to see where you're going, and what you're doing. Much love as always. So thank you for jumping on.
I hope
Any
your
last
listeners
words?
and viewers, I hope your listeners and viewers know what a champion you are. I've seen it live. Cole Russell dominated records, and it is an honor to see your life grow and prosper too, man. And you've got the greatest smile, and you've got a great heart, and it's a joy to be in your life too, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. We will definitely talk soon, but for now,
okay, man,
athletes, go out and be powerful. Thanks.